evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. Great to see you all tonight, new faces and old. Wonderful to have you on for the thrill of the grill with our amazing chef, Chef Tod Kawachi, as well as our partnership with the Big Green Egg. So those of you who are eggheads and are ready to check out your Big Green Egg, we've got some extra tips for you today. So I hope you're going to be looking forward to that, and a special Big Green Egg special coming up at the end of the month of August, live and virtually. So if you're going to be out at the winery, we look forward to seeing you around the end of August too. So today's going to be a lot of fun. It's a beautiful day in Napa Valley. Again, just a gorgeous day at Dollarhide Ranch. We're at about 82 degrees there, checking out the weather station from parcel 10. And we've also got Asael Gonzalez with us, and Misty Raudabush Kane, and some of our wine club team, Marilyn and Casey, on the line. So say hello to your favorite St. Cyprian while you're on with us today, and join in. You all know the routine. Drop your questions in the chat. If you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, do type your questions in where you can, and we'll get to those as well. They'll pop up on the Zoom for me, so we can make sure we answer everybody's important, thrilling, grilling questions as we head into the fantastic 4th of July weekend, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be a lovely weekend here in the Napa Valley. So let's jump over to Chef Tod and find out what we should be doing to get those grills started in case you're cooking along with us tonight. Tod, what you got going there?
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. I have a grill actually in the works, fired up behind me. I have a small little green egg. It's a mini max green egg. Your grills yourself, if you're going to be grilling today or over the 4th of July, you want to make sure that you've got all the tools and everything that you need to make sure that it's all set. Whether you're grilling over a kettle grill, a wood fire grill, a Traeger, whatever it is, make sure you've got it all clean and organized so that you have the grates nice and clean. You want to make sure that you've got maybe a spray bottle of water in case you have some occasional flare-ups and things like that. You want to have some rags with maybe some oil so you can wipe it down and make sure everything's all nice and seasoned. I know that just a couple days ago at home, I took care of my own grill and I did a conversion from a gas grill and put a lava rock over it on top. So I've got a little more radiance and temperature going through there. So those kinds of things, if you got all that ready to go, you should be in great shape. Pick out your favorite proteins, your favorite 4th of July type of foods. Look at maybe some side sauces. We've got some fantastic recipes. Even on the Big Green Egg website, you can find a lot of great ideas as well as some of their recipes that they have proven if you happen to have a Big Green Egg. Otherwise, make sure that you've got a glass of some beautiful chilled Sauvignon Blanc, or Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc, to go along with it, and it should be a wonderful pairing to go with the grill.
Well, I certainly have my glass of Sauvignon Blanc ready. I wouldn't miss that. And I'm really excited to have with us today Asael. Asael, some of you remember being on working with us in the lab in the past. And he has been doing some rotation out in the vineyard to do some cross training. You know, we all know the most important part about winemaking is growing great grapes. And so Asael has been expanding his winemaking knowledge and spending the last 6 months out in the vineyard. So he's at the top of parcel 10 to tell us what's been going on out at the ranch. Hi, Asael, welcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Emma. Hopefully you guys can hear me. There is a little bit of wind that starts to pick up right now. As you mentioned, I'm over parcel 10, and probably you guys have been following our previous live tastings. And so right now, what's happening in the vineyard is during these past weeks, we've been wrapping up lifting wires. So we have a couple of wires around our rows of vines. So we lift them up in order to align the shoots vertically. We only have what is called vertical shoot positioning training. So we've been doing that as part of our canopy management program. So this allows us to go through the vines, through the rows, and do our agricultural practices in a better fashion. So another thing that we've been doing lately is leafing. which it's removing some leaves to expose, partially expose our clusters in order to allow better ripening of the fruit. So we do that as well as part of our canopy management. We do it by hand, and we do it as well in Sauvignon Blanc and also in our red varieties. So we've been doing that. We've been replanting, probably since you guys remember, the ones that have been following the broadcast before. We have parcel 11. We've been planting quite a bit of new vines. And so we've been doing that. We've been working on that. And that's it. So it's basically wrapping up our canopy management and new planting.
Well, it's certainly an enormous new planting out there at the ranch. Hopefully you're all going to stick around with us for the next 9+ years to taste those new plantings, because that's about when we're going to be seeing them in the bottle, which is pretty exciting for us. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. If we can just keep everybody muted. But super excited to also talk to you a little bit about this Sauvignon Blanc. I'm drinking the 2020 Napa Valley Estate Sauvignon Blanc. And those of you who've been following along, you know this was the only wine that we made from 2020. And it, of course, all comes from our Dollarhide ranch, but more unusually, it comes just from parcel 14 on our property. And parcel 14 is a high elevation parcel, which is unusual for Sauvignon Blanc. So it ripens a little earlier, and that's why we picked it a little bit earlier. And we're getting a little bit more, I'm getting a little bit more green lime on this. It is our St. Supéry Clone 1 field selection that we've been propagating for over 20 years and is unique to us. And I know some of you are drinking the 2019, and that's going to come for over 40 parcels on the ranch. And with 40 parcels, you're going to get a few more variations in flavor because of the timing of the picking. You're going to have a warmer zone where we're picking that Sauvignon Blanc, and really super delicious. And you all know we pick this wine at night. We bring it in nice and cold, and we ferment it very slowly in the cellar to preserve that freshness. So I'd love to hear who's drinking 2019. Oh, Rob, you're drinking 2018. Well, that's a great vintage too. It's got some nice scores on that one, and it's good time to keep going on it and drink that up. We got to move you into the 2020 here. But Asael, do you want to tell us a little bit about the difference in the cellar and your thoughts on these? Oh, and Gail's drinking 2017. So we've got 4 vintages going, all 100% estate, all from the Dollarhide Ranch, and just a variations in season, with having a lot more rain in 2017 than we certainly did in 2020 and 2019. So Asael, your thoughts on this wine?
Yeah, so we have two vintages, as you mentioned, 2020. We are lucky to have this exceptional wine that is coming is rare because it's coming from only one parcel 14. As many of you guys know, we couldn't really continue harvesting last year due to fires, but this parcel could be picked before. So that's what you're tasting on your 2020. Still, we managed to capture what we can do here at Supery, which is a fresh wine in the palate, really crisp. That is citrus driven in the palate, in the nose, and the palate as well, retronasal aromas. 2019, as you mentioned, Emma, it includes other layers of stone fruit, little tropical notes in there, still keeping the freshness. And as you mentioned, we harvest our parcels for reds and white during the night in order to preserve that freshness, to preserve those aromas. And for Sauvignon Blanc, we track every single tank, and we separate the parcels, meaning that we can see what's happening on that tank, on that ferment, and we can backtrack it to the vineyard, to the parcel. And we have that opportunity to have a cellar with multiple tanks. And as you mentioned, we do a slow fermentation, cold ferment. We manage that. We don't want to have a super fast fermentation. We want to keep that freshness, those aromas. As you can see on that tank on top of the tank, we have that swirling happening, that CO2 that is being released due to the fermentation. The yeast is eating up that sugar, converting it into alcohol. And it's really amazing. Fermentation probably is one of my favorite steps during the winemaking process, because you get to smell all those incredible aromas such as banana, quince, and guava that just happen naturally. But again, we try to capture all that citrus and that freshness into our Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, it's certainly delicious. I get a lot of green lime in the 2020 vintage, and Rob's getting that lime, but also a lot of pineapple in 2018, a little bit warm, a relatively warm vintage, but not a lot of heat spikes in 2018, a really exceptional vintage for Napa Valley. Can we see, I think you took some video today, Asael, of how the Sauvignon Blanc's doing so far this season?
Yeah, so right now, that's a video from today. It's growing. We're awaiting for aeration to happen. Which is our next phenological stage during the growing season. That's parcel 13 and 13A, and it's looking very nicely. Those are older vines. They're quite vigorous. They're producing the best fruit. And so things are moving, and we are really happy.
Yeah, those clusters have grown a lot since last week. They're starting to plump up. It's great to see the red grapes are still looking pretty small, but nice to see the harvest season coming along. I think we're going to have an early one this year with the drought moving along, but the Sauvignon Blanc is delicious, and I hope everyone's enjoying a glass. Let's see what Chef Tod has us cooking with it.
My pleasure. This is a great wine to pair up, especially with seafood. I happen to have some sustainable seafood in the form of some beautiful Kauai prawns. These are Kauai shrimp that are farm raised there on Kauai, and they're a fantastic live product that is sent over. I usually buy them on the whole. Now, wherever you find your best seafood monger or seafood shop, definitely pick out some wonderful shrimp. I prefer them on the whole in the shell. And so what I have here, if you take a look, I'll show you. They are a nice size. There's about maybe 13 to a pound, which is a nice size. They have the head on, the shell on, and everything. I like to actually cook them on the grill this way because what's going to happen is the shell and everything that's in there is going to help to kind of insulate the meat, keep it moist, but it also transfers a lot of flavor in there as it kind of toasts and roasts on that grill. And so what I did ahead of time was basically did a little devein on here. I used some scissors and kind of cut through just to open up the back to be able to devein that. You can use a little knife and you get the sand vein out of there. And then you've got your whole shrimp that are head on just like so. I have a few of them here. I also took some bamboo skewers and I soaked them in water. And what that's going to do is help to keep them from flaring up if you happen to go over the grill, over the flames on a hot spot. These really don't take all that long to cook. So let me just show you really quick an example here. With that soaked bamboo skewer, I'm going to go in through the tail and head up towards the head here. So I'll have that on the skewer. It's a nice way to kind of handle them, easy to put onto the grill, and you just grab onto the wooden skewer. So by doing a small little twist right in through there, I don't know if you can see that, I basically skewered them so they stay straight. And this way the meat stays straight. It doesn't necessarily curl up. You got a good chance of it cooking nice and evenly there. In our recipe, we also have a nice marinade, and this one happens to be extra virgin olive oil, some slivered garlic. I don't want too many bits of charred or chopped garlic in there, so I just slivered it, perfumed it, put some salt, pepper, and a little bit of lemon zest in there. And these are all fresh herbs that go really well with Sauvignon Blanc. There's some fennel and some dill, there's some chives and some parsley, and a lot of that comes straight from our estate in our garden. And so what you can do ahead is just basically coat these. Obviously, if you let them marinate a little bit more, you're going to pick up more of that flavor. You'll get some of that marinade in the herbs inside of where the shell was split there. And you want to just go ahead and marinate those for a while and just let them do their thing. You can definitely season them, right? Even though you're going to peel the shells away, this is one of those kind of fun rustic peel and eat kind of preparations. So you can make those up ahead of time and have them all ready to go. Now, I went ahead and did a few up ahead of time, of course, to make it more simplified, and they have been marinating for quite some time. So you can see they're all lined up. I've got the zest on there. There is just enough oil to coat it without being too heavy. So in other words, before they go onto the grill, I want to make sure that I take that excess oil off. You can see that kind of dripping there. You want that off so it doesn't necessarily flare up and cause a char or a burn or give you some sooty kind of marks on there. But a nice amount of salt and pepper on here, slivered garlic, the fresh herbs in there, and that olive oil. There's also a little squeeze of lemon juice. Since I zested the lemon, I put a little lemon juice in there. So it adds a little bit of almost like a very thin type of a vinaigrette. Let's talk a little bit about our wonderful big green egg that I'm going to use today to show off. Let me go ahead and show you what we have going.
A couple questions on the marinade there. Did you add the lemon after you had let them marinate for a while?
I actually put it in at the time when I made the marinade. So it's just a little bit of lemon juice in there. It's not enough that it's going to turn it into a ceviche or cook it in any means. It's just a little bit of acid in there to kind of offset some of the olive oil that you have in there. So I put that in at the very beginning. You can also finish, and I'm definitely going to put some fresh lemon on the plate afterwards, so you can serve it very simply like that and just let the natural goodness kind of come through.
Okay, and what's the minimum marinating time that we want to do?
Minimum is probably about maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You know, you want to, obviously, if you can go up to an hour or so into the refrigerator, you're going to get more of that flavor that gets inside of the actual shrimp itself. So I think that's going to help quite a bit.
Excellent.
So our big green egg is a fun and popular kind of an outdoor cooking toy. Let me show you just, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in over here if you can kind of follow me on this. And what I have is what they call the Mini Max. So this is a really new toy that I have to play with. You can see that it has a temperature gauge right up here. It is a beautiful color. It's got that nice porcelain on the outside, great color. Down here we have a little vent and a clean out. So this is the air vent where the circulation is going to create a lot of that temperature that we're going to develop, or close it down to kind of lower the temperature a little bit. It all has to do with airflow. The nature of it itself has to do with a lot of convection, and that's why you want to use this with a lot of times the lid down. Up on top, you've got a vent here that's going to allow for the smoke to escape, the heat to escape, or to keep it a little more closed where it will be a little more lower temperature. So it's almost as if this is stepping on the gas and this is putting on the brakes. When you have them both wide open, you're going to have an extreme high temperature and heat. I have mine, you can see, just over 400 degrees, and that's a good temperature because what I want to do is cook these shrimp fairly quickly. The beautiful thing about this is you can see the inside here. It has that really nice stone that's in there that's been baked. It's really solid. It also helps to hold the temperature almost like an oven. So what you're doing is getting the grill from this wonderful charcoal. The lump charcoal that's in there is a combination of oak and hickory. And this is also from the big green egg. This is the recommended type. It's a really nice natural kind of a charcoal that you can use. And it gives off a really nice kind of a smoke flavor without being overpowering. The combination of hickory and oak, I think, is really nice. So what I did ahead of time was allow it to heat up. It doesn't take very long. Those coals will cook for a long, long time. They will basically kind of smolder. But because they pick up the heat and it heats up almost like a pizza oven, the stone layer that's on the inside, it creates this intense heat, even though you don't see a lot of flame there. So with this type, you don't necessarily have a lot of flare-ups, as long as you're not going with extremely oily marinades or dripping or fatty foods or things like that. You shouldn't get a lot of flare-up. Plus also controlling the oxygen flow from the bottom up to the top. That's going to help you to extinguish any flames that you might have there. So you should get a really nice, clean kind of a flavor. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll just show you. I'll go ahead and put these shrimp onto the big green egg. This is known as a Kamado style of a grill. And you can use it either for larger pieces of protein or for small, and all depending on the different size that you want and how much you're actually grilling or cooking. You can fit them right on. So if you were to maybe do a nice piece of a roast or a whole chicken, obviously you're going to drop your temperature way down. So I'm going to go ahead and close this so that all that intense heat that's in there is going to help to perfume and flavor and cook them through. If I were to drop the temperature down, I could go with something that would cook longer, that would be thicker, that would require longer cooking time. And all I would have to do is basically just close this damper down here, close this just a little bit, and my temperature would drop a little bit lower. So if I were to do something that was a longer roast that needed more time, I would definitely cook at a lower temperature, and it would be more of a low, slow kind of a approach to it. In this case, I'm going to keep it fairly high and go with the shrimp fairly quickly, so I get that nice kind of a char and a toast around the outside of it. The shells will give off a lot of flavor. You'll see them change color. And so in just a little bit here, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, give them a quick flip. But I would imagine this might be maybe less than 3 minutes or so. So if you've never tried one of these, they're a really fun thing to play with. We're fortunate to also have a large size one that is for outdoor. This one is small enough with my commercial hood here in the kitchen. You can probably hear that. It will draw the smoke up, so I can use this inside the house as long as I have the commercial fan to draw that smoke and exhaust up.
Yeah, that was my first experience with a big green egg, was in fine dining in Holland with the big green egg in the kitchen. And I was just so amazed to see it barbecuing. But of course, you've got those great commercial hoods that are sucking all the smoke away and keeping the kitchen nice, but very clever.
So let's have a little look here. I can see that there's some color that's starting to develop on the outside. You see there's no flare. You can't even see the flames of the fire. But I do know, because of looking at this temperature gauge, that it's over 400 degrees. So it's pretty hot. I've got heat going up over the top. The heat starts at the bottom from the coals, and it kind of follows up through that shape, that egg shape. And that's why they've become so popular, is because they do a nice job of kind of keeping the moisture and the heat inside. They create almost like this oven with a grill underneath there. So that's where a lot of the uniqueness comes from in this style of cooking on a Kamado type of a grill. Now, you can serve this with any other different types of sauces, your favorite sauces that you like. You can experiment and have fun with all different types of seafood. There are so many different accessories and pieces that they have that they sell with this. And there are some real big green egg fanatics that are out there that are posting their favorite recipes, their little tips and tricks and things like that. But as far as a simple, straightforward method, this one is being used much more like a grill where you want to cook something quickly. So I have my temperature up higher. And I'm just going to allow it to kind of cook naturally this way. With that beautiful color I'm seeing there, now I can go ahead and give them a quick flip. Nice color on there.
Oh, they look delicious.
And so afterwards, when these come off, I can give them a nice squeeze of some lemon. Just enough right there. And then you can finish them. And I was going to say that if you were to have a favorite sauce, maybe you have a favorite dipping sauce, whatever your favorite sauce would go with, that could be a really nice touch to go with, as opposed to just simple lemon. But in a lot of cases, when you have a really nice product like this, then there's no need to kind of cover it up with anything too heavy. A wonderful remoulade sauce. I think I have a recipe on the website that you could use that as well. It's got lots of herbs in there. There's some capers, some cornichon in there, a little bit of mayonnaise and some garlic and shallots in there. So it would be kind of a nice little twist or another side dip. Another fun thing to do is also, since I had my grill kind of fired up there and it was pretty hot, I took my lemons that I cut in half. You can either do fresh ones, nothing wrong with that. Good old lemons, you can always rely on those. But you can also take them and put them onto the grill. And you can see here, they've got a nice char. They've softened up a little bit, so they're super juicy. And I definitely pick up that kind of roasty, caramelized lemon juice smell there. So it picks up a little of the smokiness from the coals that are in there, from the lump charcoal that's in there. And so I'm going to use that as part of my garnish here to go along with that. So really simple and clean, kind of a fun 4th of July, kind of a peel and eat. Get your hands in there, get maybe some wet naps and things like that. Make sure you've got a nice chill bottle or two of Sauvignon Blanc, and it should be a fantastic way to enjoy them. Let me take a look and see how they're looking.
How are we doing there,
Beautiful.
Tod?
Yeah, they look great. So I'm going to pull these off.
We've got a lot of eggheads online here. Everybody's got their big green egg out. We like to see that. And
I'm sure that they've developed their own favorite recipes and their style of doing them.
yeah, look forward to seeing some of those recipes posted with some St. Supéry wine.
All right, so I'm just going to pull these off. And I like to make sure that they are not overdone. The nice part about this is they're going to cook pretty quick and intense. I want to make sure they're not overdone to the point where they get rubbery and tough.
Oh yeah, they look perfect.
Now you have your finished ones. Just go ahead and close it. The nice part about this, if you wanted to save your coals where they are and you're all done, if you extinguish this by closing this and close this, it will basically suffocate the fire. It'll shut it off, and you'll find that you'll have some coals in there that can be relit again after they've definitely cooled down. Now there is a little clean out down there below that you could scrape everything out as far as the fallen ash. But as far as the rest of the coals, as soon as they stop cooking and stop burning, they're going to be in good shape that you can actually reuse them again. So as long as they don't continue to burn all the way out, you've extinguished it all, you can actually get a longer shelf life off of those, longer grill life off of those coals there. So that's a nice thing to know, because they do actually give off a wonderful flavor. Here we go. But it's nice to know that they're not just going to burn up right away, especially if I've got something quick. And for the fuel efficiency sakes, you know, they think about these types of things as they're developing the Big Green Egg. They put a lot of sustainable thoughts into it, everything from the lump charcoal, all the little steps along the way that they went with, the way that it's made, the materials that it's made with. So they have a really nice conscientious kind of approach to their manufacturing on it. So I'm just going to lay these out on here.
Gorgeous.
They smell fantastic. I smell just enough of that kind of quick smoke on there. You can definitely take your lemon, just squeeze it right over the top there, or you can actually peel them and pull them off. A lot of people like to actually take the heads and suck the heads, very much like a crayfish. You might find that with crawdads. And then you can just peel the shrimp. You get your fingers all wet and finger looking good with the lemons on there. It should be a really nice match, especially with that Sauvignon Blanc. Really nice and bright and fresh. Should be a fantastic pairing.
Looks totally delicious, Todd. Question from Rob. They're in the Midwest. They're wondering about frozen shrimp. I know you know all about them.
Sure. Well, frozen shrimp, now you definitely would not want to use the head-on ones. Typically what they do when they are going to freeze them is they're going to go ahead and take the heads off, and that's fine too. You can still use them in the shell. The most important part is that you find ones that are either, if they are farm-raised and there are frozen tails that are in the shell, make sure that it comes from a sustainable farm. You can check the ranking on that by using the Monterey Bay Seafood Watch Aquarium to find out which country or which producer or which farm is the best one for sustainability. And the main thing is that they should be IQF, individually quick frozen, as opposed to a block freeze, where a lot of times there's so much water on them that they become waterlogged and then they release a lot of water when they're done. So if you can find IQF shrimp that are individually quick frozen in the shell, you can still thaw them, just put them in the refrigerator maybe the night before. So if you plan ahead, you want to basically let them thaw naturally like that, as opposed to soaking them in water, rinsing them, or going into hot water or anything like that. So go ahead and do a nice overnight kind of a thaw gently, get the excess water off, pat them dry, go ahead, put them in the marinade, and go from there. So if that's your best source that you have, you can still make it work. And the nice part is, if you've got a wonderful grill, you're going to pick up a lot of flavor on those shrimp, even if they're frozen. As long as they're frozen properly and thawed properly, you should be able to get a fantastic product out of that.
Yeah, that key with frozen seafood is just that flash freezing very quickly, and how you defrost them. Don't rush it. Just let it defrost slowly in the refrigerator. That's been a life changer for me, because I think when you're busy, you can keep it in the freezer and, oh, I'm going to make that tomorrow because there's nothing else in the refrigerator and it's going to be delicious.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that looks wonderful, Todd.
Oh, that smells so good.
So I know not everyone can have shrimp, and we're going to be jumping over to some beautiful tri-tip here, and that calls for Malbec, I think. I hope you've got a glass of that. I see the Stumans have their Malbec going, and I'm drinking the 2017, and we have the pleasure of Asael is up there in the wind on that windy hill of our fantastic high elevation Malbec out at the Dollarhide Ranch. This is a single vineyard Malbec coming from there. And And the 2017 vintage was a little bit different. 17, we had a lot of rain at the beginning of the season. We had some significant heat spikes and pretty dry through the growing season, really dry through the growing season, as in not just lack of rainfall, but also lack of humidity in 2017. It was an early season. And some of the wines were a little bit lighter. And I know this Malbec, you've got 17% Petit Verdot from the Dollarhide Ranch in here as well. You want to talk about that a little bit, Asael? Am I getting you?
Yeah, for sure. So Malbec, can you hear me?
Yes.
So yeah, Malbec is a variety that is really relatively large cluster. It has relatively big berries. So compared to other varieties, it's a late ripening grape. So even though 17 was warmer, we harvest this parcel in October 18th. So this allowed us to have a very nice maturity on that Malbec. So as of today, I was talking with Sauvignon Blanc that the berries are very small right now. It's a loose cluster, but they're gonna start getting bigger with variation. So they're gonna start getting bigger. Right now, this is the stage that we call petit pois in French, which means pea-sized berry. So they're basically very green berries right now, but they're gonna start getting big. And then, so this tends to be Parmi Malbec. It's a berry that is really, and with ripening, you can achieve really nice tannin on it. And this vintage in particular, we call it Malbec still because the majority is Malbec, but it has a little bit of Petit Verdot. So what Petit Verdot gives is color, but also gives structure. Petit Verdot tends to be is actually really small cluster, really compact, really small berries. You have a lot of skin surface, even though they're small, and you release a lot of color, and it provides a really nice tannin to build up the palate on our Malbec. And then what Merlot, Parmi Malbec, tends to be really fruity driven. Petit Verdot gives a very distinctive violet note in the nose.
Yeah, it always, for me, the Malbec is always just this like juicy quality, and it brings like a juicy quality when we blend it with the Alu. And I find it's very mouth-watering, what we're tasting here. And it looks quite prolific. Still, I know you've gone through and dropped some fruit off this parcel already, as we like to do with Malbec. I think you're probably going to be going back through again. Do you want to talk about that impact on quality, Asael?
Yeah, for sure. So Malbec, it's a grape that it's very prolific, as you mentioned. So we have a lot of clusters per vine. So what we do is we evaluate this load of fruit in vine. So what we do this counting. We project our yields, and we're gonna do a pass in green, as you can see. In the video, so they're removing some of the clusters to balance that load of fruit. What we want is a good ripening on that fruit. So this year, with the drought that we're facing right now, we had a bit smaller canopy, bit smaller shoots. So we're trying to balance that vigor that we have with the load of fruit that we have as well. So we want to balance those things in order to have the best tasting fruit, in order to make the best tasting wine.
Well, it certainly does make a difference to put all that energy into fewer clusters. I think you definitely notice it becomes a price point with a lot of Malbecs that are less expensive. They're probably higher yielding because then you don't have to you grow as much and work as hard on it, and you can make more wine with the same number of vines. So I think this extra work really improves the quality of wine, but it is a lot of extra hand passes through the vineyard. We drop fruit 4 to 5 times on the Malbec, and also after veraison. I know it looks like we're getting pretty close to veraison on the white wines. What are you thinking for the Malbec as far as when we should be heading into veraison, Asael?
Yeah, so variation for Malbec, as I mentioned, is going to happen later in season. It's one of the late ripening varieties, so it's later after probably all of the varieties that we have. So what would happen during variation, for those that doesn't know, so the berries start to get bigger in size, and there is a maturation process that happens quite fast right after the pea size. So the berries start to get bigger, the flavors and the aromas start to develop a bit more. The acidity levels, the acidity content start to drop. The sugars are incrementing. So we have this sugar concentration that we will be monitoring throughout the season in order to catch the best moment for harvest. So variation will happen later, and since it's a late harvest variety.
Yeah, well, we look forward to picking it. The wine is delicious. Of course, we've hand harvested that at night, and like we do all of our fruit, and with all of our red grapes, we've once again sorted this fruit through our sorting system prior to fermentation when the grapes come in nice and cold, to ensure that we're getting only the highest quality fruit possible coming through the winery. Asael is an expert at programming the optical sorter and making sure that it's only selecting the very best fruit that we can after we hand sort out those clusters and anything that shouldn't be in there, and then run that through the destemmer, bring those stems and seeds back out to compost at the ranch, and continue to go through and just select those perfect berries. I mean, it's always remarkable to me how this piece of equipment works. I hope you join us in August and September, and maybe a little into October this year, and can see exactly how this optical sorter works, because it's quite remarkable. There's Asael programming exactly what he wants to see. No raisins, no stems and seeds, no green fruit, just making sure we only have that perfect fruit at the end that looks like supermarket blueberries. And then, of course, doing a quick fermentation to extract all the flavor that we can out of the skins and seeds, and really make a nice juicy wine with it. And I think this juicy wine is going to be great with this juicy tri-tip and chimichurri sauce. So let's jump back over to Chef Tod and see how he's doing with that big green egg outside to make sure that we're having a delicious tri-tip with this. And there we are out in the arbor. Hello, Chef. Looking good there with the big green egg. We've got a good view of you, and can see the glass of Malbec for sure.
For sure, a glass of Malbec. I know you may be a little harder to hear me out here with the wind going and everything. We're getting that really nice cool breeze that starts to come in from the south every time this time of the day here in the valley. But even bigger green egg here, right? This is the one that we're lucky to have for outside use. And so I've had this one fired up earlier. I did want to go ahead and to pair up with our Malbec, do a nice piece of beef on here. So kind of in the Argentinian or Uruguay style of grilling meats over fire and getting smoky, and then using a chimichurri sauce to go along with it. So there is a chimichurri recipe that I like to use. A lot of variations on that. So you can either add your chili flakes in there if you want it a little bit spicy or hot. You can add cilantro to it. Mine has about 3 different types of herbs in there that complement the beef and go really well with the wine itself. So just to show you what's inside here, even bigger green egg, same properties, same idea. It's got that wonderful insulation that's on there that creates that hot kind of a sear over the top of it. This one happens to have what they call a convector. It's a diffuser that will allow for, instead of direct hot heat coming from it, it would allow the heat to kind of come up through the sides over the top of the dome and to cook it nicely that way. So it's a way of cooking something that is thicker, like this beef tri-tip that you see right here, and cooking it in a way that it will cook nice and soft at kind of a slower rate. I also took the liberty of taking some of our beautiful red onions from the garden, and I cut them in half, brush them with a little oil, salt and pepper, and put those on as well. And then also any kind of vegetables that you're going to find. I also have some beautiful portobello mushroom caps here that go well with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these off. Once you have your temperatures all set and your beef is all ready, you can actually drop the temperatures. You could close both dampers, shut it all down, and it can go to a very low temperature. But I always recommend pulling the beef off and allowing it to rest. It's really important to allow it to rest so it has time for the texture of the meat to kind of tenderize just a little bit or soften. It relaxes after coming off the heat. And then a lot of the juices will kind of stay put inside there. So before you go to slice it against the grain, you want to make sure that it has enough time to rest nicely there. So just to show you an example of plating all this up, I do have my chimichurri sauce here. This has garlic and shallots. It has some lemon juice and some red wine vinegar. But the main ingredient here is parsley. So nice and fresh and vibrant, and it helps to cut through some of the richness of the beef itself. So what I want to do here is take this tri-tip, and I can see that there are lines that run this way. And so I'm going to slice against the grain thinly. And that's the one thing about if you're doing tri-tip that you're going to want to do that way. So just a few slices. You can cook this to whatever degree of doneness that you like. You want to be able to pull it out enough time that it carries over nicely. So you might have to compensate and maybe go with just a few degrees less of doneness on this. So if you want it to be like a medium rare, you want to be maybe about 120 to 125 degrees and pull it out and allow it to rest. And resting in this case, you don't necessarily need to, you can see that nice pink in there. You don't necessarily need to cover it or foil it. I think you can go ahead and just let it sit like so. And then with your other garnishes, if you have your mushrooms, slice some of those bits on there. So nice earthy mushrooms. Portobellos are super earthy. Here's some of your onions. Garnish with some of those. Make a great 4th of July or any day grilling, summer grilling plate to go along with it. Then, of course, you have your chimichurri sauce. And if you want to do that, you can basically go right over the top, just kind of put a little over the edge, serve some on the side as well. Allow that wonderful flavor that you pick up from the big green egg and the smoke that you have on there. Just accent it from there. And if you serve a little bit more of your chimichurri on the side, I always like to finish with maybe a little bit of our Cabernet infused sea salt. I'm sure you've seen me use this before. So just a little bit on the actual beef itself as a finishing salt is great as well.
So I was thinking that chimichurri, it has just great acidity, as does the Malbec. Is that part of your thought process in pairing the chimichurri with the Malbec?
It is. It tends to be a nice way to pair up with it. You know, you've got softer tannins here and very juicy wine. And so to go with the beef and the char, the smoke flavor that you pick up on there, that nice fresh alternative, the opposite kind of flavor of fresh green herbs along with some garlic, shallots, and some acid in there is a great touch. And that kind of balances out. So it helps to cut through some of that richness, but it also refreshes. So every time you go to the wine, you have a great sip.
Any other suggestions if you can't get a tri-tip that we should be using?
There's so many great ones. If you have a nice thick cut steak, I know that a lot of times the tomahawk steaks are very popular now. You're getting this beautiful, looks like a giant prime rib cut with a long bone attached to it. That's very popular. If you wanted to do a rack of lamb on there, you could do that. So many different ideas, a lot of different variations. If you look up on their website for the big green egg, you'll see a lot of inspiration, a lot of ideas that you can try yourself.
And any tips for us if we're not fortunate enough to have a big green egg and we're cooking on a conventional grill that we should be thinking about as we put a tri-tip on that?
Same kind of idea. You can either do it two different ways. You can cook it very slow, cook it to a nice internal degree of temperature, and then turn the temperature up. If you have a gas grill as opposed to charcoal, you could do that. You could also do it the opposite way, where you sear it initially over a really high temperature and then turn it way down and let it cook very softly. This one went in about 400 degrees, and then I dropped the temperature down probably closer to about 300. So I started off with a kind of a hotter sear on here, but I had that nice kind of temperature to go over the top of it. So whether you're using a gas grill at home or you're using any other type of a fuel source on there, you have your options of being able to develop the proper doneness on the inside and get that nice crust on the outside.
Yeah, and are you able to use your temperature probe with the big green egg, just like you do in the convection oven?
Yes, you can. by all means, you can definitely insert that into the thickest part of the tri-tip or whatever roast you have, prime rib. But the big green egg also does make a probe attachment that you can order to. It's one of their wonderful accessories that they have. So if you wanted to buy that to match up with it, otherwise for your own home grill, if you don't have the big green egg, by all means, you can use that probe, the digital probe temperature thermometer, and set it to whatever temperature you want so that it gives you a little heads up warning that you're getting close to that internal temperature that you're looking for.
So Tod, could you just kind of give us a range of what that internal temperature should be for rare, medium rare, and well done when we're cooking a steak or a tri-tip? What our goal ranges are?
It's all basically, personal preference or what you grew up eating or the way that you like to eat them. And it might be different cuts that you like to eat at different degrees of doneness, but your final temperature after it is rested, if you are about 120 degrees to 125 degrees, that's going to be a rare temperature. If you're 125 to 130, that's where you're getting that nice pink for medium rare, 130 to 135. So you're almost like in 5-degree increments along the way. And then if you really want it well done for some reason, then you want to go all the way up to about 160 degrees.
Oh, like wow.
Yeah. So it's almost in those kind of increments. And that is your final temperatures after they have rested nicely. So they will continue to carry up and cook. The nice part about this with the tri-tip is it's going to continue to cook even after you pull it off of the heat. You allow it to rest. So two things happen at the same time. It continues cooking, but it also kind of relaxes and allows the juices to stay put.
Yeah, Rob's saying if you want it well done, just say no, because we don't want to destroy that beautiful piece of meat while you've worked so hard to prepare it all. We're getting a lot of comments on the Cabernet sea salt. I see that your recipe from the website has been posted for that. Don't forget, Chef Tod has a lot of amazing recipes on our website posted for you. You can search by whichever wine you're drinking or what course you're trying to pick and pair with it. And we look forward to having you next week. We've got our special guest, Elizabeth, our Southeastern Regional Manager, is going to be running the show with special guests from around the country who are experts on perfecting the pairing, including Chef Tod. If you haven't had the pleasure of coming to the winery and doing his perfect pairing experience, this is your chance to do it online and make sure you can ask all of your questions of him. I'm not seeing any further questions coming in on the chat. So thank you so much, Tod, for the beautiful demonstration today. And we look forward to seeing you all next week for the perfect pairing. I'll be off with Elizabeth taking charge. And of course, Chef Tod and the rest of the team will be here for you. So until we see you next week, be well, be kind, and we'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye, everybody. Good to see you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Well,
hi, Stacy.
well, stay well.
Drinking well, I hope.